Now, in this section, I will be dealing with the Module 6 topic, that is about RTOS, Real Time Operating System. And also, we have to see about the important features and also about the different types of services provided by RTOS kernel. So, what is the speciality of RTOS when we are comparing with the general purpose operating system? So, if we are going to design a system, our operating system, which is mainly based upon the criteria of time requirements, that is, this system is going to operate in a real time. Okay, so all its output must be deterministic and also it should be responsive in nature. So simply if the system is going to give you a correct output, it is not if that much enough, but it must be given the output in a timely manner. So it is expected to respond in a timely, predictable way to unpredictable external stimuli. For example, like the scientific experiments, medical imaging systems. So in all these systems, that is in case of embedded system applications, we are going to use the real-time operating systems. Okay. Then next we can see its comparison with the general purpose operating system. So these are the comparisons. So the main difference you can see, in case of RTOS we are having a time based scheduling, whereas in the case of general purpose operating system we are having a process based scheduling. So always for embedded application we use RTOS, and some examples are given. So VxWorks and MicroCOS we are using RTOS, whereas in Windows, Linux, Unix, etc. we are going to employ the GPOS, that is General Purpose Operating System. So there is no predictability in case of GPOS, whereas RTOS they will be always predictable. Predictable means the output at any instant, it will be deterministic. It is going to give you a particular amount of output in so much and so much of time period, and also if there is any changes there will be control parameters, so there it is going to exhibit a predictable behavior. And the operation in the case of GPOS, it can be preempted or may not be preempted. But kernel's operation, it should be in such a way that it is going to give the importance to high priority interrupts or high priority tasks. So always the kernel will be preemptible in case of R2s. So in the last sections, we have already covered about what is the differences between preemptible and non-preemptible, and also different types of scheduling, etc. And in the case of embedded system, we know that the operating system is not required to have a large amount of memory, whereas it requires a large memory in case of general purpose operating system. Then again it is speaking about the preemptive nature, that is the kernel must be preemptive or either preemptible up to a particular level in case of R2s, but it is not that necessary in the case of the GPOS. So from the examination point of view, you may be asked initially to explain about say the features or the services of the real-time operating system or its comparison with GPOS. So these are some of the characteristics of the real-time operating system. So it is deterministic, that is within predetermined times or within predetermined time intervals, operations are fixed. For any input, the output is going to be deterministic, and it is responsive. So responsive means that if any interrupt is going to occur, it must respond to that interrupt within a particular time. So time is the most important criteria here. Then about the response time requirements, about the reliability, and it should be user applicable. That is, user control must be enabled. Okay, so all these are the characteristics of the real-time operating system. Now, from the examination point of view, you may get an essay question asking about the goals or the services of the real-time operating system. So you have to mention all this point by point. So some 10 points are mentioned here. So we can see what are these essence of all these 10 points. First and foremost, we know that we are going to have several sharing of resources. So all these resources must be easily shared with the help of the operating system. That is, operating system is only going to schedule or allocate these shared resources, whether it be memory or whether it be processor or different types of IPC mechanism like pipe sockets, all the input output peripherals, display, printer, keyboard, etc. So all these are being allocated or scheduled by the operating system. Okay, so that is the first and foremost task. Second one, we know that embedded system means we are having the required amount of hardware and application specific software. So we must be able to easily blend the software and hardware together. For that, we are using the operating system. That is, operating system is something which is going to come in between the hardware and the software. And next one is it must enable the easy provisions of context switching and interrupt servicing mechanisms. That is whatever task we are having. That is we are going to work in a multitasking environment. So the OS is going to provide the scheduling and it is able to switch from one context to another context. So if an interrupt is occurring, it is going to jump from the current context to the interrupt service. That is it is going to execute now the ISR routine. So all this is being provided by the RTOS in our case. Then the management of all these, that is process, task, thread, inter-process communication. So from the starting, that is when a process is started, it is in the created or it is in the new stage, then we will create a particular process control block for that process, then allocation of resources till this time the process is going to enter its exit state. So that complete task is being managed by the operating system. Then easy interfacing with the other file directories or networking protocols, etc. And next one is the portability of application. That is whatever application we are making, it should be portable on different hardware configuration. That is whatever system software or software we are configuring, it must be working on different type of hardware configuration and another on different type of networks. There must be interoperability of the application and then common set of interfaces must be provided. Then also we should be having the user interfacing, graphic user interfacing or application processor interfaces, etc. And also it must provide protection and security. That is we are going to effectively share the resources among the different type of tasks, but always the OS must be handling the security mechanisms also. So you have to remember these 10 points, and if asked for the examination the goals of RTOS, you have to provide the 10 points and can explain in own words. Then another thing to be understood about the RTOS is that you can say that there are generally two modes by which RTOS is going to be working. So generally, if you are understanding about the operating system, you should understand about the term the kernel also. So what exactly do you mean by the kernel? That is kernel, it is going to be the center part of our operating system. That is, it is only going to provide the services for all the parts of the other parts of the OS. Okay, so that is mainly where we are going to deal, or the core of the operating system you can call. It is going to deal with the process management, memory management, file management, etc. So actually, where can you place this operating system is between the hardware and the software layer, and it can work in say user mode or the supervisory mode. So there is a difference also between the user mode as well as the supervisory mode. That is the default state of operation or the normal condition of operation is what you called it as a user mode, in which the user is going to execute the program. Whereas supervisory mode, it's a kind of a privileged mode you can say. So that is the user is having no access when the system is working in supervisory mode. That is, in the supervisory mode, the processor and the actions are entirely controlled by the operating system. Okay, so it is a kind of privileged mode where even the operating system functions can be modified. That is, it can be changed. But in the case of user mode, it is a limited mode of operation. We cannot modify the OS system functions, and it is be having only limited functions. So we have to understand that the kernel, it will be always operating in which type of mode? It will be in supervisory mode of operation. So OS, you can consider it as a middle layer between the application software and the system hardware, and it is a secured unit of an OS which operates in the supervisory mode. That is what you have to underline. So the OS kernel operates in supervisory mode, whereas the remaining part of the application software operates in the user mode. So in the software itself, the core of our RTOS, that is a kernel, operates in the supervisory mode, whereas other application software operates in the user mode. For understanding that only in the previous slide, what is user mode and supervisory mode understanding is required. So you can define our RTOS kernel as such, and remember, kernel always operates in the supervisory mode of operation. So these are again the functions or the services of the kernel. So again, you may be asked to explain about each of these services of the kernel. So from our syllabus, we have to study about the services of the process management, memory management, file management, and then the device management. So first of all, regarding the process management, all these things you are already familiar with. That is, in the previous sections you can refer. So if you are having again, if you want any clarification, you can go to the previous lectures. That is, we have already stated about the diagram of the process state or the process life cycle, and about the states of the process, and about the process scheduling. So all these topics are being completed in the previous lectures, and also about the process control block. That is, what all informations could be possibly present in the case of a process control block. So you can go through all of these. So it may possibly contain all these information, that is the state of the process, the address of the next instruction, then about the register information, scheduling information, accounting and business information, memory management information, and input output status information. Now, regarding the process management function of the RTOS, you can say that these are the general 5 functions which is to be performed by OS kernel. That is, starting from the process creation to deletion. That is the first function. Then maintaining the process, that is maintenance of PCB, and then managing the sharing of the resources, then scheduling of the different process in a multitasking environment, and enabling for the inter-process communication. So you have to mention these 5 headings and you can write in your own words. So first one is the process creation. So process creation means initially the process is going to enter into that queue. In that stage, it is in the new state that resources are not being allocated. Okay, so after that only you can have the allocation of the resources. Then once we are having the process creation, all its information will be pertained to the process control block, and then the operating system is going to take care of that process until it enters the exit state, whether maybe it may be preemptible or input output even may occur, as you have seen in the process life cycle. So all this information, it will be managed in the process control block by the RTOS kernel, and it has to process the resource request, that is either by using the shared memory or the message passing model. It is going to implement all these resource requests. And another is about the scheduling, that is, if there are multiple processes to be performed, it should enable based upon the preemptive or the non-preemptive model. It will employ the different type of scheduling algorithm. And another one is enabling the IPC, that is enabling the inter-process communication. So we have seen about all these IPC's techniques in the 5th module. So all this is enabled by the process management of the RTOS kernel. So you have to remember these 5 headings and then you can explain in your own words. So about the process, some important questions are regarding the process life cycle, process control block, and what are the functions specifically performed by the RTOS kernel. Next function is the memory management function of the RTOS kernel. So in this you can classify the memory management function as 4. So 4 headings are given. So first one is the memory allocation and deallocation. Next one is the memory protection to the OS function. Third one is the memory protection among the tasks. And fourth one is the multiprocessor memory allocation. So we can see one by one. So first one is what? Memory allocation and deallocation. Okay, so in case of memory allocation and deallocation, what does it means that we all require a specified region of memory for performing a task. For that, the operating system kernel, it is going to divide the whole of the memory into certain blocks. Okay, so whenever we have a operating system installed, it is going to generate that memory partition. That is, memory will be divided into blocks. We have got a memory manager unit in the OS kernel, which you have learned in the third module about the MMU technique. Now this allocation, it can be either a fixed block allocation or it can be a dynamic block allocation. So in case of fixed block allocation, we mean that the whole of the address space, that is whichever process it is having a uh, large process, means it is going to get a larger number of blocks, and small process means it is going to get a small number of blocks, but it will be fixed. Okay, for example, if you are considering that you are having a total of say 1 GB memory. So I am going to now divide it into fixed 10 blocks. Okay, each is having a size of say 100 MB. So that is a type of fixed block allocation. But in the case if I am going to divide this 1 GB as I require, for example 2, 3, 4, etc., in such a way that altogether it is going to make 1 GB, that is dynamic block allocation. Okay, so then the memory manager is going to allocate this variable size block, but this information it will be maintained in a description table. Okay, so this is the difference between the fixed block allocation and the dynamic block allocation. So one thing which you have to understand is that this memory allocation or this block formation, it is done by the RTOS kernel, and also it maintains the memory access region for a task. That is, for one particular task, it will be allocated a separate region or a section of memory, and it will not allow other tasks to access the memory region allocated for one particular task. So next function is the memory protection to the OS function. That is, there will be a space area which is reserved for the operating system functions. So in that protected memory area which is reserved for the OS function, a user will not be allowed to modify it, or that is to do the read or write function. So if the user tries to do it, what happens is that an error message will be generated. So that is also a function provided by the RTOS kernel, that is memory protection to the OS function. The next function is the memory protection among the tasks. That is already I explained that for one particular task there will be a separate area reserved for its use. If another task tries to access it or to do the read and write operation, again error message will be generated. That is the memory protection among the tasks. Next one is, if we are going to use more than one processor, then multi-processor memory allocation will also be performed by the OS. So allocation strategy can either be shared with either tight coupling or loose coupling. Okay, so in the case if you are going to use more than one processor, then that memory allocation is also being performed by the OS. So you have to remember these four headings of the memory management function. That is these four, and in the memory allocation it can be either fixed block and dynamic block allocation. So these are the memory management functions of the OS kernel. So next we can see about the device management functions of the OS kernel. So what do you understand by a device? A device can be any of the these much units. That is, it can be any peripheral device which you are externally connecting to your system. Okay, it can be an input output peripheral like your keyboard, a display, or it can be externally connected a USB drive, a network interface card, etc. So the function of the device management is to ensure that a particular device is accessible to one task only at an instant. That is, there will be several devices which is connected to a system, and the system will be doing multitasking. So at a time, one device is accessed by only one task. Okay, that is the function of this device management. Now the device management function, as you can see, almost around like 13 functions are there for device manager. So you must be able to learn the heading of each of these function, and then you can write in your own words. Okay, so these functions of the device manager I have given in a block form. So you have to learn about all these headings. So let us look at each and every one. So first one is the device detection and addition. So what is the firstmost function of the device manager? That is, we can connect many type of devices to our system. So the first function is to identify which type of device is being connected to your system. Okay, so it means that a device manager provide the tracking of the hardware inventory, which type of hardware device is connected, whether it is a printer, whether it is a scanner, whether it is a pen drive, NIC, whatever it has to initialize. It is the detection has to be done. So that is the first function of the device manager. Then device deletion. That is provide the code for withdrawing the resources allocated to a device. So when the system is connected, initially we have to detect it. We have to know which device is that. Then only you can allocate the resources. Then afterwards, while detaching the device, it should provide for also withdrawing of the resources. Then another function is device allocation and registration. That is, it is speaking about several set of registers or memory addresses will be there for various type of devices. So for whichever device we are connecting, for that device a port is allocated or a register, some portion of memory is allocated. So it means that in our system, in which memory location we are going to store the information of our device. So for storing say the information of one device, some set of memory region will be used or some ports will be used. For another set of device, another set of memory area and another ports will be allocated. So this information only it is speaking about in device allocation and registration. Then next function detaching and deregistration, that is the opposite of device detection and addition. So when we are detaching, it has to deregister it. That is the meaning of it. And also it has to provide the code for detecting any collision existing. That is one port or the address may be allocated for one set of device alone. So there should not be any collisions occurring. That is also being taken care by device manager. And restricting the device to a specific process. That is, a device is going to access to only one task at a time. It may be shared by several tasks, but at a time only one task can access it. Then device sharing, again the same, that is the sharing of access of a device to set of process. That is, it must be able to access all the process, but at only one time one task is being enabled. And another thing is about the device control. That is, if you are having remote devices, for the remote control of devices, for example, like in the case of mobile device, then the device manager is going to provide that function. That is a function of device control. Next one is the device access management. Now, device access management can be done either by sequential access, random access, semi-random access, or by means of serial communication. So, you are already familiar with what is serial communication, that is bit by bit transfer. Okay, between the two ports. That is, we have already learned about all these UART protocol, USB protocol, CAN protocol, etc. So other types of access we can see. So sequential access means that how a device is going to access these processes. For example, say in case of a multitasking environment, if you have got say more than one process, that is 10 process you are having, you are going to access it one by one in the order. That is, for example, like reading a book, if you are going to access say from process 1 to process 10 in the order, that is a sequential access. Whereas random access means randomly, maybe according to a priority set or something, we can access the process. That is what random access. Then semi-random access means it is a combination or it is a mix of both these access, that is sequential access and a random access. Suppose we consider that there are 10 processes, and in that 10 process again inside it there are many sub processes or sub threads. So we can access these processes say for example randomly. First of all, I am going to access the fourth process. So that is a random access, and inside that process the several threads that will be accessed only uh, what sequentially. So that is the concept of a semi-random access. Okay, so these are some of the access of the device access management. Next function is the device buffer management. So buffer management means that the data must be processed without any delay. That is the concept of the buffer manager. Actually, the buffer it may be receiving the data at a slow rate, but it is keeping as a device, it is keeping all these buffer requirements so that without any much delay, the processing of the data is being carried out. That is the function of device buffer management. Then next function is the device queue management. So there can be several forms of queue. So what it basically means that it is that if a device is going to maintain a queue, okay, in such a way that it is going to keep a priority for the several devices, then we can call it as a queue management. That is based upon the priority only the access of the device to each and every process is being given. So device manager organizes the device input output data streams of device queue, and based upon the priority may be set in the queue only, it is enabling the access of the device to each and every process. Then next is the device driver. So there is no requirement of explaining the device driver much. We have already seen in detail about what is definition of concept of device driver and its functions in the third module. So what was a device driver? Device driver means the one which is providing the software for the device manager. That is called as the device driver. That is whichever device we are connecting, hardware device we are connecting to the system, backend the software code is running. So in order to drive that hardware device, we have got a software code which is basically referred to as a device driver. So the software commands, we have already gone through these software commands in third module. So all that comes under the device driver function. That is for creation, connection, binding, opening and closing of the device. So for all these functions we are having the device driver. Then device driver updating, that is maybe for working of the certain hardware devices we have to install the device driver. That is new software code needs to be installed or software codes need to be updated. So all that functions are also coming under this device manager. Then it also provide for data backup and data restoration. Okay, so for the device, whichever device data we are having for restoring the data of such devices also, we are having the function of device manager. So almost around like 13 to 14 functions are there for device manager. So the best thing will be to learn about the headings of all these functions. Okay, you have to learn about the functions of the device manager, all these headings, and by using either a tabular form or point by point form, make sure that you are writing this heading correctly, and after understanding what it is, you can explain in your own words. Now, one more function we have to study about the file system organization and implementation. Okay, so we have to understand about the file management function also of the operating system of the RTOS. So basically what do you mean by a file? So each and every operating system, it can have different type of abstractions for a file. A file can be any of these. So basically it means some data. Okay, the data can be in the form of text, characters, or can be a mix of all of these. So whichever devices we are having, it can be a external memory device like the magnetic optical disc, or in our system memory itself we are storing some data. So the place we used to store the data, okay, that we call it as a file in a computer system. So you can have different meaning or abstractions of file. It can be either a structural record on a disk having a random access in the system, or it can be a record which is coming in the system memory, that is in the RAM memory, and it can be any types of data. It can be even in the form of bits or bytes, and it can even also refer to virtual devices like pipes or sockets. That is both these abstractions, that is pipe and socket, is coming under the inter-process communication. So you can refer to the previous lectures of the pipes and sockets for understanding it. So the data which is being communicated in between the pipe device or the socket device, that also you can call it as a file. So file can be meaning any of these. And these are the file management function. So this is a Unix command given and these are the actions. So it is necessary to organize the files in a systematic way and to have a set of command functions. So all these are command functions for the file, and the file management functions, it provide the function for creation, deletion, read, write, etc. to the file. So open means function for creating the file and writing into the file. This is for read and write operation. Then this is for closing the file. Clist or set the file pointer means if we have got many files, in order to access one particular file. For example, if there are 10 files, if I want to access the 6th file, I can place a particular pointer. So a pointer means the address. So you can use this command, that is a clist command for accessing say one particular file. So all these are Unix command for doing some actions in the file. There can be two types of file system, that is one is a block file system and next is a byte stream file system. So if an operating system, it is going to generate a file. That is, if you are having a OS installed, it will be generating, it will be keeping all its data in records in a suitable format. That is, it will be translated into a block format, or you can call it as a block stream file system also. And then there will be a pointer which is going to point from the start to the end of the file. So if the OS is generating the record file, we call it as a block file system. Now a file can also be generated by a application software. If an application software is going to generate a file, it is called as a byte stream file system. And these strings are also being saved into memory like that of block file system. But here the format is different. That is, instead of having a block format, here the representation is in the form of bytes. Okay, that is the pointer will be such that it is pointing say from 0 to n minus 1 in a file of n bytes. So if there are n bytes, it will be in the byte format, unlike block in the case of block file system. And here it will be, the pointer will be pointing from 0 to n minus 1 in a file of n bytes. So understand the difference. If the OS is generating the records, it is called as a block file system. And if the application software generate record, it is a byte stream file system. Now these are the file descriptors and meaning. So in order to describe a file, we require certain entities. That is, we require an identity. Maybe if there are many files, numbering can be done like 0, 1, 2, 3. So name by which a file is identified in the application, the process or the program which has created, that is the creator or the owner, in which state the file is, whether it is in a new state or saved state, executing state, etc. Then the security permission of the file, whether it is a read-only file or whether it is readable and writable. That is, if there is a permission of editing or modifying, it is a readable and writable file. Then the information of the file, how much data is being contained in the file, when it was last modified, when it was last accessed, all those information. Then sharing permission, how much time it can be shared. Sorry, not how much time, whether it can be shared, and the along with the security permission of reading and writing. The number of other directories, that is whichever other folders or workbenches or other directory which is referring to one particular file, and how much blocks is transferable in a particular file, that is given by the storing media details. So all these are file descriptors and the meaning of the file descriptor. So when you are asked to explain about the file management function of the RTOS, explain with what is a file, what is the concept of the file and the different abstractions for the file, and about the commands of the file, about the descriptor and the two types of file system which can be generated by the OS and the application software. So in this section, the main important questions which could be asked, the first and foremost important question is regarding the services of the kernel. Okay, so when you are asked to explain as a essay question about the functions or the services of the kernel, can mention all this and go on to explain in detail. Each one also could be asked as a essay question, that is process management, memory management, file management and device management. So first four you have to study in detail. And another thing which could be another question, each of this it could be asked, and another question is regarding what is RTOS kernel and what are the features of RTOS. So prepare likewise, and in the next section we will see the second part of the lecture of RTOS.